Hey everyone, my name is Logan Waters, and today I'm going to be speaking on just really the impact of media on childhood development. Um, and really, what I want to start off today is just asking you guys how much time are you spending on your phone each day? Is it anywhere from 4 hours to 10 hours? Because it can really vary. I just want you to think about that as I'm talking today, and think about how much of an impact it makes on your daily life and how much stuff you do get done, from from a production standpoint. If you go in your settings, some people have this set up. You click on screen time. I really hope you can see all this, but mine is 3 hours and 27 minutes, and that goes up and down. Really, just kind of depending on how busy my week is. But to say less, it's obviously important. Um, Today, to kind of open things up, I want you to just think about this fact. Preschoolers today are spending more than 4 hours a day looking at their screen. That is insane. Um, you know, Changes in behavior, physical activity, and development are things being influenced negatively through this. Just looking at our phone, looking at a TV, just kind of watching the television on a daily basis, whether it be on an iPad or a computer, it has its impacts, and it all ends up kind of resulting back to ADHD a little bit. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It's a disorder that begins early in childhood and is oftentimes misdiagnosed, but it carries on throughout our adulthood, and it's identified with symptoms of inattention, hyperactivity, and even impulsivity. Um, and this has a very big role to do in society, as people are being misdiagnosed and they're having to take different medicines of all different sorts to help them focus in on something, even when they may not need it. But my first point today is just going to be, talking about how one of the major factors being influenced by media are the changes in behavior. Um, since I would say the decreasing amount of human interaction happening between children and parents is causing children to be diagnosed with ADHD, because the parents aren't really being able to interact with their children. And, whenever the parents do see the children, they've been on media so much that they're not really getting to notice, what is normal, what is not normal, and ends up causing them to take their children to the doctor, the doctor misdiagnosing them. I can't remember when the 10-year period was, but over one 10-year period, the rates of children being diagnosed rose from 7% to 9%. And that's a pretty large jump. I believe it was saying that 1 in 20 children are diagnosed with ADHD and that attention is needed. And this kind of plays a part into household chaos, just kind of depending on where the family is and the economy, where their income is, how much they were educated. It kind of ends up correlating with each other, just kind of based on where they are. I know children in higher income households, they end up having a lower quartile of household chaos, just simply because they're being able to devote more time and attention to the children, which ends up, giving them the more support and development that they need in order just to really function at a very high level. And when you compare that to someone in a lower income family where they're just having to work all the time, they just want to give their kid the media device, whether it be an iPad or television, just to really be able to babysit them while they are present. And if I remember correctly, it was about 14 hours of screen usage per week difference between someone who's able to devote time to their children versus someone who can't. That's a pretty significant number if you think about it long term. And this can come to ruin family relationships, just really as this can come to ruin family relationships simply because you're not being able to devote time to your children where it's needed. Um, and I think that's really important, being able to spend time with your children as they're growing up so that they're not, I guess, developing based on something that a television has said or, a YouTube video. And my second point today is really just talking about the sleeping behaviors that's being I guess, influenced by media as well. It's obvious that, whenever we're looking at a screen, there's a certain amount of light exposure that's being shown on into our eyes that can really affect the way that we do end up sleeping. I guess the psychological arousal is what I'm talking about here. A study had shown that children between ages 1 and 4, when they have the presence of television in the bedroom, it ends up, I guess, being associated or ends up associating with, the amount of sleep or the quality of their sleep. Whether it causes it be whatever, mm, whether it causes, nightmares, sleep talking, or terrors of some sort. And of course, early childhood, it's a pretty unique window regarding how much sleep they do need. But it's safe to say that everyone knows that whenever you're a child, you need more sleep than the average adult because you're growing more. And if you're getting less sleep because you're watching TV or you have a light going on in the room and it's just changing colors the entire time, it's messing with your brain and the quality of sleep that you get, which can, end up affecting the way that your body, I guess, develops, and it can increase the amount of fat that you have on your body and kind of risk obesity in the future, or cause the risk of obesity in the future. My third point was just kind of based on the physical activity levels that are in children and how they're being provoked negatively due to the media as well. Whenever we're looking at the advancements in technology, the amount of physical activity that children engage in has lowered. And, just kind of as a result of screen time, children, or a child's development is being affected in a way where children aren't having the meaningful interactions that they need to because they're being disconnected from the real world. And that can cause problems long term because they're going to miss out on social skills that they really need. It's a lot easier to go, play a video game with a CPU than it is to go outside and find, 5 friends to play kickball with. So those are some of the things that end up coming back into play where it's like, why is my child getting fat? It's because it's so much easier. I don't know. It's just, it's so much easier to go online and find friends than it is to go out into the real world and make those human interactions with people. Um, and that ends up, lowering the amount of physical activity that they are receiving. Um, and just kind of talking about obesity in depth. Whenever we're talking about, I guess, the amount of screen time that they're having, they may be watching TV a majority of that time, especially growing up the first, 4 years of their life. Whenever the parents are, say, handing them, a remote or something, or TV to babysit them, they're going to be sitting there looking at, advertisements, and a lot of advertisements, go back to, I guess, food and commercials. And whenever they're sitting there watching, a bunch of advertisements on food and stuff, it's going to make them want to eat. And I can speak for myself here. Whenever I watch TV or something, I simply want to eat with it because it makes it so easy. Um, and that can be a problem as it can kind of serve as a cue to just start, eating whenever you do see a screen and you're just sitting down and taking some time. Um, and of course, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm watching television or something like that, I don't want to eat necessarily healthy foods. I want to eat something that's going to last me during that entire episode. And, that's usually going to be something that's not as dense. So maybe something like popcorn or chips, which ends up being unhealthy. And that can kind of lead to obesity in that sense, especially if we're talking about high hours. And then just kind of lead on that a little bit more. Um, I think, if I remember it correctly, it was each hour of TV each day increases the chances of likelihood of being obese by 13% when it comes to children. And that's just huge because if I'm going to prepare my kids for success, it's not going to include them being obese. And just to kind of conclude my speech today, I want to talk about I just want to say, children are using social media, or not social media, media too much, and it's affecting them more than people realize. And the behaviors are being influenced through the media in more negative ways than positive. So I want to leave you with a question today. How much media do you use, and how does it affect your life on a daily basis? And would you want your child's screen time to be 8 hours plus? Thank you guys.